Hi, I'm Tony from Your Level Best, and I'm here today to talk to you about macronutrients. I'm a big believer in macros, and here's why. I came to the diet losing weight bit maybe differently than many people. I worked out and I lifted weights and I carried too much body weight, and I had too much fat on me too, but I lifted weights a lot and my blood pressure was 173/85, so it was really simple. Either cut the body weight or go on blood pressure pills, and I didn't want to do that. So I started looking into diets and researching stuff. As a grad student, I learned to research for myself, not to really, trust what, well, you had to get the grades. But anyway, I researched a lot of diets, and a lot of diets work. Whether it's low carb or high fat or low fat or whatever it is, lots of diets work and lots of people lose lots of weight. The trouble is when you start introducing or reintroducing those types of foods that you cut out, the weight comes back. So it seemed pretty logical and fairly straightforward to try to get all of the nutrients and yet cut the calories. And that's tough too, because we're used to eating a lot of food, those of us that put on weight. So let's start by saying one thing. Whatever you do, don't try to go from 4,000 calories a day, which is pretty much what I used to eat, down to 1,500 calories a day. Because if you do that, in general, you're going to be, a real bear to live with. And people have to live with you, and it's not going to be a successful thing. So look at cutting down portion sizes, but don't think about calories right off the bat. Just shrink the portions some. And pretty soon, just as we learn to overeat, you'll start training yourself to, walk it back a bit. So start with portion sizes and set aside calories and don't worry about it to begin. But after you're to a point where you can, it's really important to look at your macronutrients. They consist basically of three categories: protein, carbohydrates, and fat. Now, there's a lot of science. There's a lot of science out there for all of these, and I went to look at the embedded link at the bottom of the description. I went to the government's website for dietary guidelines. And again, it's embedded, so just click on it and look, and you get all the information you need, way more than I know about. But let's just kind of give you an overview, and if you want to look deeper, you surely can and probably should. But let's start with protein. Protein's a major building block of our bodies. We need it to fuel our muscles. And I remember when I was losing muscle mass, when I went on a vegetarian diet, I talked to a bodybuilder, and he said, professional bodybuilder, he said, well, what's your diet? So he also said, no matter how much you work out, you can't overcome a bad diet. But I was eating vegetable protein, and there are some complex proteins made of vegetables, rice and beans, quinoa, they come to mind right away. But the proteins I wasn't getting enough protein, so I had to go back to eating animal protein as well. One of the things we do, Carrie and we use a lot of whey protein, and it's a supplement, but you can mix it with things like yogurt, which is something we also do, and you can have it in shakes and a whole bunch of different things. But you can get protein pretty easily in your diet, but it's hugely important because it does, especially if you lift weights. If you lift weights, you absolutely have to have it. Otherwise, you will lose muscle mass even when you're lifting instead of gaining it. Also, you can lose muscle mass just through dieting if you don't lift, but also if you don't get enough protein. So pay attention to protein and try to hit your guidelines for protein, which is between 10 to 35%. Again, I'll repeat these at the end of the process here, but 10 to 35% of your calories should be from protein according to the USDA guidelines. So the next thing we should talk about our carbs. Now, carbs are the most efficient thing the body breaks down. They break down quickly, and the body breaks it down in ways that turns the fuel to blood glucose and fat. So if you burn it a lot, then it turns to blood glucose and it's energy. If not, it goes to fat. But same thing happens with protein. So you really want to know there are two types. There's simple and there's complex. And again, all this verbiage is in the description at the bottom, and it's done much better than I am doing right now, so please do read through the description. But the simple carbs, probably you know what those are. It's just sugar and things that are really not that great for you, and they don't last. The biggest thing is, if you're going to watch your portion sizes and you're going to figure out how to take the body weight off that you put on, then you really want to kind of stay away from simple carbs. You don't want to kind of have to stay away from. You need to stay away from simple carbs for the most part, because they don't feel lasting. You burn them fast, and it's not going to make you feel full. So you want more complex carbohydrates when you are going through the process of losing weight. Next, let's talk about fats. Fats are glycerol and fatty acids, and they're absolutely essential to cell building. They're also essential to energy and growth and lots of other things. But I'm 56 years old, and I kind of promised myself I'd never talk about bowel movements when I got older, but well, when I first started dieting, I didn't pay attention to macros. I just did what a lot of people do. I did a high protein, low carb, low fat diet, and lo and behold, bowel movements were hard and they were not coming very often. So, if it's important to you to feel good and to have things move clearly and cleanly and all that other stuff, yeah, you want to include fats, particularly if you're in your 50s, but maybe even if you're younger. So fats are really important for a whole lot of things, but it's also the most calorie dense food, so be cautious. And you want to really, really concentrate on polyunsaturated, saturated, and monounsaturated fats. Stay away from trans fats. They're man-made fats. They're not good for you. Can't say that enough. They're just not good for you in any way, shape, or form. So stay away from trans fats. Let's talk a little bit about the breakdowns of the percentages of the calories that you should have. Now, carbs should be 45 to 65%. Fats should be 20 to 35%. And protein should be 10 to 35%. Now, this isn't, arbitrary. This isn't something I came up with. It's USDA guidelines. These are nutritional professionals, scientists who have done painstaking research to figure out what works best. And there's no real secret. We can see from the body what works and what doesn't work when we're doing this ourselves. But why put yourself through all the time and the agony to figure out stuff when it's already right there for you? So again, go to their website, look in more detail, but get your calories tailored to fit at what works best for you within those guidelines I gave you. Again, 45 to 65% for carbs, 20 to 35% for fats, and 10 to 35% for protein. And this doesn't have to be painful, dieting. It really doesn't. Start with shrinking your portion sizes, then start counting calories. And for gosh sakes, find yourself a fitness app that works. We have ones that we use. We're not going to recommend any because we're not authorized really to talk about them. But maybe if they sign up with the program, then we'll be able to talk about the ones we use. But find one. They're all over the web. You can find them. They're free. and they do all the work for you. They'll track all your nutritional needs. They'll track all of your calories, everything. It's really not very challenging to do. And how serious are you about this? You know, it really comes down to that. What are you willing to do? How are you willing to handle the rest of your life? It isn't necessarily that hard. Nothing's hard when you know how to do it. We're here to help with that. But what is frustrating to me is seeing how many of us are overweight and complaining and trying diets. Diets seem like a great way to separate people from their money. We're not asking you to send us money. We're just asking you to watch, to subscribe, tell your friends about us, and look into stuff yourselves as we give you the stuff. Like, look into that website. Look into other things. When you do look into things, though, make sure you triangulate the research that you do. That means find sites that you're comfortable, that the information's accurate, and find not one, not two, but three. Triangulate those sources, and if they all pretty much say the same thing, you're solid. You know the information's solid. And just one more thing before I let you go today. The biggest thing, I think, is to really continue to eat things you like. Peanut butters, I love peanut butter. So I found a way to do a powdered peanut butter versus a full fat peanut butter. And I've been able to keep peanut butter within reason within my diet. It helps with the fat when I do a regular, I do one serving of regular peanut butter. It helps with the protein when I do the powdered peanut butter. But I get to eat peanut butter. If you like chocolate, dark chocolate, whatever you like, find a way to keep that in your diet. It's got to be, you can't eat as much as you were eating of it, but find a way to keep it in, because you shouldn't be miserable. Because if you're miserable, the people around you are miserable, and that's no good. I mean, the world's a better place when you're a happy person. Your world's a better place when you're a happy person. So enjoy the process. Come along with us. Subscribe. Tell your friends about us, and let's figure out how we can all do this together. Well, love to all. Have a great day. Thanks for listening. And check out the description on the bottom so that you can see what was, I wrote it in a much more clean and articulate fashion than I said it. And I apologize about bouncing all over the place. I could hear in my head what I wanted to say, and it didn't seem to come out very well. So anyway, have a good day. It was nice to talk to you. And write us if you have any questions. Thanks.